Coming up next.
How do we know this is what has really baffled me as I grow in years. How do we know that we're in that manipulative, caretaking, controlling relationship as opposed to giving a gift? Yes, I want to get up and make the coffee because that's my gift to you in the morning. And I choose to do that, not that I'm trying to manipulate you to do things or get
Right.
up early or whatever. How do you know the
All right.
difference?
This is how I know it from years of doing this practice. One is urgent and one is unfolding. So if I have this urgency or this feeling or this anxiety that's driving the behavior, to me, it's addiction. It's addiction or codependency. If I get up in the morning and I feel at peace and I think, oh, I'm going to make my husband a cup of coffee. Yeah. Or I'm going to get my child something. But if I notice that my body is in some kind of even a minor activation, or I feel anxious, like it's say to yourself, do I have to do this? And if it's like a feeling like I have to, it's codependency. It's not love.
Welcome to Faith Over Addiction podcast, where the chains of fixing and striving are broken and joy is rediscovered in Christ. You are here because you know there's more for you, a life beyond addiction's chaos, rooted in God's peace and promises. This is the place where Christian women like you learn to release the weight of fixing and striving and instead lean into God's strength to create a home filled with love, grace, and hope. She is clothed with strength and dignity. Proverbs 31:25. That's you. You may not feel like it yet, but you are stronger than you know. And God has so much more for you than carrying someone else's addiction. Here, we'll uncover how to set healthy boundaries with love and a little humor. Find resilience and grace in the messy moments of life. Celebrate small victories and embrace joy like never before. Lean into God's promises for restoration and strength because He's not done with your story or your loved ones. This is your invitation to rise up, embrace your worth in God's kingdom, and take back what's been stolen by addiction: your peace, your joy, your future. Your faith is the foundation, and your boundaries are the bridge, and God's truth is your guide. I'm Tanya Joya, your host and fellow traveler on this journey through the chaos of addiction. I'm here to cheer you on, equip you with tools that work, and share the truth that's changed my life. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Together, we'll uncover how to create safe, loving space for healing, starting with your own heart and home. By setting boundaries, trusting God's plan, and embracing His truth, you can reclaim your joy, your peace, and your family's future. Then you will be able to stand firm for your family and legacy as a kingdom daughter, a woman who can laugh at the days to come, knowing her identity is secure in Christ. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and get comfortable. Let's walk this journey together. We're about to take back what's been stolen, create a safe, healing space for you and your family, and rediscover the joy God has waiting for you. Welcome to Faith Over Addiction. I'm your host, Tanya Joya. I am here with Dr. Sarah Michaud. She is a psychologist, but she's also 40 years sober. We have been having the most enjoyable experience about her website called Crazy Town and codependency and what that really means. So, Dr. Sarah, take it away and give us some background on you and codependency.
All right. First of all, I just want to correct you, Tanya, because the YouTube channel is called Leaving Crazy Town because we don't want to be in Crazy Town. And when you know an addict or when you're around addiction, the bottom line is you feel like you're in Crazy Town. And The reason my book is called Code Crazy is because so many patients over the years who were struggling with codependency are people in their lives that had either an addiction or a mental illness or something. They would come in and they'd say, I feel crazy. And I
Mm.
know that's not like a feminist thing to say because it's like women being pathologized that they're crazy. But the reason I say it is because that's how we feel when we're in a relationship with an addict or we're in a relationship with a person who's not telling us the truth or who's gaslighting us or whatever. So I got sober in 1984, so I'm super old. And I was 24 years old. And I mean, I really believe what brought me to my knees was drugs because I probably could have drank for a lot longer. But when you start getting involved with drugs, the consequences are much more severe. It costs a lot of money. You start doing illegal activities to get money. There are arrests, there's jail, it gets very colorful.
It snowballs quickly.
It snowballs quickly. So I thank God for the drugs because it really got me to my knees much quicker. And then when I got sober, I ended up really wanting to work with people with addiction. So I ended up going back to college and then getting a doctorate degree, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason I ended up writing the book was because I got married to someone with 15 years of sobriety and I was sober. This was in the early 2000s and he relapsed
Oh no.
and my life blew up. And I thought to myself, this is me. I have a doctorate in psychology. I've been going to Al Anon for 20 years. I've been sober at the time for 20 years. And I've been seeing, I'm seeing 25 patients a week. And I am struggling with being with someone who's active. And I thought, if this is hard for me, this addiction thing and codependency thing is super difficult to break down. And, it's not like addiction where you just put the substance down and your life starts. This is very nuanced, very tricky, goes up against behaviors that you've been doing for your whole life. So that's why I really started to do a deep dive into relationships in general, but relationships with addicts or being in relationships where you're compromising yourself. So we could talk about so many pieces to that, but
That is, so I want everybody listening to take a really deep breath. So breathe in and let go. Here's the thing. You can have studied, you can be practicing, you can be working in the field and still
yes,
have, let's use a Jungian term, have that shadow character show up
yeah,
and go, ah, we don't know what to do here. And then here's what I think is so interesting is we end up in that shame spiral going, well, I should know. I've studied this long enough. I've been in therapy long enough. I've been here, here, and here. Tell us, I think this fits in. Tell us a little bit more about Finn and how you came up with
Oh,
Finn.
Finn. So we do the channel, Leaving Crazy Town. And the reason we do it is because during COVID, I met him on a Zoom meeting and we became like best friends. And he's been sober 10 years. I've been sober a zillion years. We have the same sense of humor. And what I saw at meetings over the years is someone could be sober 25, 30 years and still be talking about people pleasing behavior in a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So my feeling is the codependency piece is very often the first piece before someone even picks up an addiction. And then you put down the addiction, and what happens? All the codependency relationship stuff starts manifesting again. And that's where I see the trouble is with a lot of people, either in recovery or not. So he and I agreed on a lot of like observations we were making about folks we know that were struggling with the codependency. And we can talk about what that means. So we decided to do this YouTube channel and also have a sense of humor because this stuff is can be very traumatic and can be very hard to change. It can cause a lot of pain. I mean, pain and suffering. People lose people all the time in this field. So we wanted to make sure that we had some brightness, some joy, some, levity around it. Not to dismiss the pain, but to cope. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you're not laughing, you're crying, right? Or
Yes.
you're numbing out somewhere. So give
Yes.
us, Dr. Sarah, give us some definitions around codependency. We had Melody Beattie do a lot of great work around that. But
Yes.
we have evolved just like the recovery world has evolved, different
Yes.
language has come out. Give us give us a place to hang our hat.
Okay. I have several definitions and I have simplified it over the years. I mean, obviously you can Google it and get tons of definitions on the internet, but I'm going to give you a couple of them. One is my focus is on other people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors rather than my own. So that's one. It's also about, we often think that we're being like, if you're a caretaker or you're kind or you're generous and you just want to be helpful to someone, that it's a great quality. And I think it is a great quality. But where it becomes pathological is when you start dismissing your own needs, your own thoughts, your own feelings, because you're afraid of what the other person is going to think or feel. So the core of codependency is fear. I'm afraid what you're going to think of me or what you're going to do or what you're going to feel. So I change my behavior. And I can give you some examples of that. Like parenting's a great example. So say I have a child who's struggling and doesn't listen to me and, won't get himself ready in the morning.
Mm.
This great quote from a parenting book said, if you keep packing your son's backpack, he's going to start believing he can't do it. And
Mm-hmm.
so that to me says it all. It's like part of codependency behavior is I'm going to try to control everything around me because I'm scared of people having their feelings. So I'll start doing all these things for my kids because I don't want them to feel the consequence. The thing with codependency is it's not even about my child having feelings. It's not about my husband having feelings. It's about me having my feelings about them having feelings. Right? So
Yes.
it's really all about me and my fear. It's not about other people. But the disguise or the delusion is, oh, I'm just being helpful. I'm caring. I'm going to call my alcoholic husband's boss and tell them he can't make it. When really I'm afraid. I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of the boss. I'm afraid of our financial situation. I'm afraid of everything. And so it's really about allowing people, and this is super hard, allowing people to have the consequences of their behavior. But it's really about tolerating your own feelings about them feeling the consequences of their behavior.
Where does safety come into this?
It's all about safety because this is the thing. And this is how I'm like a really simple thinker. So we're kids, right? We create all these brilliant behaviors to survive and feel safe. So, for example, maybe I have an angry dad. And because he's angry a lot, I learned to shut down, or I learned to manipulate him, or I learned to be a clown and make him laugh, or I learned to hide out and become quiet. So I learn all these behaviors. Why? To feel safe in my environment. The
Mm.
problem is those behaviors don't change as we become adults. We keep using those same behaviors even though we're in adult relationships. We don't know that now we're safe and we don't need those behaviors. And the problem with those behaviors is they typically don't work in adult relationships because nobody wants to be manipulated. Nobody wants to be controlled. Nobody wants to be lied to. People want a partner who's speaking up, not someone who's shut down. But those behaviors are all originated in trying to feel safe in our families. And yet they're unconscious. And, Tanya, I talk a lot about fear because people often think, oh, I'm not afraid. I'm not a fearful person. But when you put it into a relational paradigm, so fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of your anger towards me, fear of you having feelings, fear of you not loving me, fear of your opinion, fear of you not liking me. All of those fears are interpersonal. And those dynamics, that is where all of our early childhood behaviors manifest because our intimate relationships are the things that feel the most threatening. And, love, we could talk about love forever. We have a video called What is Love and What is Codependency because we can definitely mesh the two.
Let's pause and talk about
Yes.
that for a minute. And I want to throw this out. Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Love, Pray, has come out with a
Yes.
new book,
Yes.
which, even if you don't read the story, I read the last half of it.
I read the whole book.
One of the things she says is, I can drink people like you drink alcohol, in the sense that I need you to fill me. And if I don't
Yes.
get drunk enough from you, then I will keep asking and keep asking and keep demanding.
Yes.
How does that play into this love codependence piece? Because what she discovered was profound.
Yeah. I mean, it's an addiction to human beings. It's an addiction to how I feel when I'm around you. And for me, it's funny because we did a book review on that book, but it's the same as addiction. I see co-addicts and addicts very similarly. And meaning that the underlying causes and conditions are really the same. So if an addict is afraid to be with their underlying feelings and escapes through addiction, we can understand that. The
Mhm.
co addict or the codependent person is exactly the same. They're going to escape, but they're going to escape through a person. So it's exactly the same thing. It's this lack of identity, lack of tolerance of what's going on inside you, lack of tolerance of feelings about your history, your past, what you've done. It's really about the inability to sit with yourself. So I'm going to have to come out of myself and I'm going to have to get what I call a hit from anything. I can get a hit from a person, I can get a hit from someone liking a video. That's huge right now. You can get hits from anything. It's not just drugs and alcohol. Like everybody has this need, it's on a spectrum of having that validation. So, I mean, yes, that was brilliant. And it's really just simplifying it into I need another person to make me okay, just like I need a drug to make me okay. And the bottom line is, it's finding something outside of ourselves to make us feel okay inside. And like I'm sure you've heard this a million times, it's an inside job. We can't the trouble is too, and why I liked her book is because it really showed the severe consequences of codependent behavior. And it also showed it doesn't matter how smart you are, you can do this stuff. You can end up in a very, very severe dysfunctional relationship. So I really liked that piece of it because I believe codependency can kill people. I mean, I've had clients who older people, say a couple who have like remortgaged their house 3 times to pay for their son's treatment centers. Meanwhile, their health is declining. They're not taking care of themselves. They're sacrificing themselves. I mean, that's a huge piece of codependency where you neglect your own needs to fulfill needs of someone else. And Elizabeth Gilbert gave many examples of that in her book. And it's all about I don't have my own identity. I don't know how to get that. So I'm going to get it through someone else. And the problem is, we can't control how someone else feels about us. We think we can. So our behavior is all about controlling. Oh, they're going to love me. They're going to fall in love with me. They're going to like me. I'm going to control if they get angry at me or not. And we can't. So all of our behaviors is based on them, but they change because they're human. So that's the big deal about it all is it does not work. We think this behavior like changing and twisting ourselves up into a pretzel works to control someone, but it really doesn't. And that's the what I call the big lie. It's the big lie.
I
right?
love that you used pretzel because that's personally that's what I felt like. It's how much more can I pretzel? I am
Yes,
pretzeling. I use it as a verb.
yes, yes,
What I hear you saying is the desperation in codependency can be as debilitating as it is with substance use disorder of I
yes,
must have this or I cannot function, which we look at substance use disorder and we say, why would you put yourself on the street? Why would you prostitute
right,
yourself? Why would you do this? It's that desperation. When we look at the codependent, we look at it in maybe a more genteel fashion.
right,
Why are you willing to give up anything that you love to stay in this relationship? Why are you willing to behave in this way? Why are you willing to be so angry all the
right,
time?
right. Well, and that's the interesting piece too, is codependency can present in a variety of different ways. I mean, I've had, clients who are just very sweet and kind and everybody loves them and they say yes to everything. And then meanwhile, underneath, they're enraged. I had a client one time, her husband went on a trip and she forgot to pick him up at the airport when he got home. And, when we talked about it, it was like she was enraged with him that he kept going on business trips and she's home with 4 kids. It's like, but instead of her communicating that, it comes out as I forgot to pick you up at the airport. So there's this extreme of people that are just very sweet and kind and like everybody loves them. They're the person that volunteers for everything. And then at the other extreme is the rager, angry person, control freak, everybody's afraid of. So there's these two extremes and then everything in between. So it's not just one way, it's how, like you said, how am I going to feel safe? How am I going to ameliorate my anxiety? How am I going to feel less depressed? How am I going to feel okay about myself? How am I going to reduce my fear and anger? And all my behaviors are going to be operating from that place. So, yeah,
Well, and as you pointed out earlier, in a way, the substance use disorder is easier because you can say no more alcohol, no more drugs. I can walk away from that.
yes,
Relationship addiction is very much like food addiction
yes,
in that we don't get to walk away from food.
that's right.
Over controlling it puts us into a space where it becomes just as dangerous. Not
Yes,
many of us want to be a desert father or a mother or a hermit out where we don't, because
yes,
in a way it says, okay, I just won't have relationships. Well, that doesn't work in God's understanding either.
right, right.
And then I think another author, Lisa Turkhurst, who is talking about this now, especially in the area of she's a Christian author who's talking about it in the area of marriage and what the church puts on folks in the understanding of marriage. Her story is so profound in that when she went to the hospital because she was having physical symptoms, her doctor said it looks like you have been in a car wreck because of
Right.
how internally screwed up her organs were, which speaks directly to what you're talking about of I have been doing what I believe is my mission and what God has told me to
Yes.
do, and it is not folding out the way that I understand it should fold out. So I will turn that back on myself.
Absolutely. I mean, you've said so much. Did you read Jen Hatmaker, like the book
Oh, for sure.
Awake? All right, she's another one. She was a Christian woman who was very involved. She was married to a minister. Her father was a preacher, very involved in the community, her church for years. And then it's a long story. I'm not going to tell you, but it's fascinating. And she came out with a book talking about many similar things, like the messages that can get misconstrued and twisted. Like, oh, this is what God wants, when really, I think God wants us to be happy and joyous and free, but and be servants, obviously, but not at a sacrifice of complete where you're not going to be able to be of service to anyone. And I mean, that's really that fine line. And I think, it do you know Gabor Mate? He
Oh,
wrote,
I love
okay,
Gabor.
Gabor.
Yeah.
All right. So that book, his second book, When the Body Says No,
Yes.
that whole book is about the consequences of codependency.
Yes.
Because every illness he talks about and every physical problem he traces back when he's interviewing these patients, they dismissed their own needs. They didn't take care of themselves. They focused on their mother and what their mother wanted for years. They did things they did not want to do and became enraged. So, all of these different symptoms to me, you know, we can dismiss our needs like, briefly in one circumstance, someone says, "Hey, do you want to go have Italian food?" And we say, "Okay," even though it's not my priority. Okay, so that's like a simple thing. But when you start dismissing your needs ongoingly and chronically, you're going to become like a piece of Swiss cheese. You're not going to even know what you want and need anymore. I mean, that's very common when someone walks into my office. They don't even know what their needs are because they've been focused on everyone else for so long. And
Hmm.
that's what develops the anxiety, the depression, the anger, the physical problems, because we totally lose the connection with ourselves. And when we lose the connection with ourselves, we lose the connection with other people, a true, honest connection. We might be in a manipulative game of caretaking, but it's not a true relationship. So, yeah, all that stuff is really critical.
How do we, let's get back to your love component. How do we know this is what has really baffled me as I grow in years. How do we know that we're in that manipulative, caretaking, controlling relationship as opposed to giving a gift? Yes, I want to get up and make the coffee because that's my gift to you in the morning. And I choose to do that, not that I'm trying to manipulate you to do things or get
Right.
up early or whatever. How do you know the
All right.
difference?
This is how I know it from years of like doing this practice. One is urgent and one is unfolding. So if I have this urgency or this feeling or this anxiety that's driving the behavior, to me, it's addiction. It's addiction or codependency. If I get up in the morning and I feel at peace and I think, oh, I'm going to make my husband a cup of coffee. Yeah, or I'm going to get my child something. But if I notice that my body is in some kind of even a minor activation or I feel anxious, like it's an, like, say to yourself, do I have to do this? And if it's like a feeling like I have to, it's codependency, it's not love. Because
How do you so how do you not tip over into the depressive part of it of I just don't want to, other people can handle it, I don't want to go to work, I don't want to do this, I want to sit here and
right. Well, and I think that also is a consequence of overfunctioning and codependency, right? If I spend my weeks or months over managing, scheduling, doing everything for everybody else, then what's going to happen? That's one extreme. What's going to happen? The consequence is going to be the other extreme. Forget everybody. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to watch TV for a week. I do, take care of yourselves. So there's these two real extremes. And it's funny because I talk about this with a lot of my friends in the addiction world, which is finding balance and finding the middle way is always the goal. And sometimes it requires swinging back and forth between these extremes to really get in touch with what is it that I really feel or think or need or want. And the second part of that is, though, and this is one of the first tools of recovery codependency, which we can talk about, is you have to have your voice because codependents want people to read their mind. They want them to see that they're exhausted. Do you know how many women I've seen over the years the day after Mother's Day who are so enraged because their partners didn't know what they wanted, but they didn't ask for it? It's the same
yeah,
thing. It's the
yeah.
same thing. It's like we can be these victims rather than speaking up and asking for what we need and want. The problem is if we don't get in touch with the underlying fear that's getting in the way of why I can't speak up, then that behavior is going to be super hard to do. So
Let's start there.
go ahead.
What would be some underlying fears that keep me from saying, hey, it would be really nice if you bring me some flowers on Mother's Day?
Okay. So I do this exercise. I should send you some of my worksheets, but I do this exercise where you identify the fear that's happening. So say the fear is if I don't want to ask my partner for what I want at Christmas, it's the fear that I'll hurt his feelings. All right, say for example, all right, fear that I'm going to hurt someone's feelings, which is huge in codependency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what I say to someone is ask yourself the following question: when did you first have the fear? What happened? Because we are only born with two fears: fear of loud noises and fear of falling. So,
Mm.
any other interpersonal fears have been developed probably when we were young. So
Mm-hmm.
I think to myself, the fear of someone having feelings. Oh, geez, I remember, being at the dinner table when I was 5 and I wanted to tell my dad about school that day. And he was really upset and agitated. And I decided it wasn't safe to speak up. So you kind of back it. And I asked people to find the earliest memory. And what is so kind of brilliant slash tragic about this exercise is that you realize, oh my God, oh my gosh, at 5 years old, I decided it was not safe to speak up. And I've been operating out of that fear since then. And that is mind-boggling. And
Yes.
think about it, like when I've done this exercise with people, there's way more than one fear. You know what I mean? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
again, fear of abandonment, rejection, someone not liking me, someone. And so you trace them back to these events. And what you really get to is our underlying belief systems about these interactions. So, like you're saying, I might have a belief nobody's going to hear me or nobody's going to listen to me. So it's acknowledging that you have that belief and then praying and doing it anyway, because that belief is from the past,
Mm.
right? So it really requires practice. And I often say to people, practice with less threatening people. So if you go downtown and you order a coffee and they give it to you wrong, ask the barista for your coffee. I mean, because you don't even know her. Or, at some store or with some person at your kid's school or someone that you don't feel fearful, you're not risking the relationship. Do you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
practice in smaller arenas of connection so that you can put them in your back pocket. And when you really need to speak up, the other thing to do is name what's happening. So
Mm.
if you know your husband loves you and you have a good relationship and you want to ask him for something for Christmas, but you're afraid, you say, honey, I love you. I know you love me. I'm feeling a lot of fear about asking you this question right now. And
Mm.
usually people have a lot of spaciousness when someone just tells the truth of what's happening. It really
Mm-hmm.
breaks it up. So that's another helpful tool also.
And
And
that
go ahead.
you were taking ownership. I am afraid, not I'm afraid of you. I am afraid, which may really have nothing to
Yes.
do with you because I had this
Yes.
incident when I was 5. So I'm going to take ownership of this and share this with you. And like you said, most of your people will
Yes.
have spaciousness. The ones
Yes.
that don't, you may have to make different choices around that
Yes.
relationship.
Yes.
How do I figure out that not having a voice? I'm doing all these crazy behaviors, right? I'm either overgiving or I'm getting angry or I'm blowing up
Yes.
at inappropriate times.
Yes.
How do I look at that and know what the fear is? And if it is, I feel like I don't have a voice.
So you're saying, what if the fear is I don't have a voice?
I'm saying I'm doing all these behaviors, but
Yes.
I'm not sure why I'm doing these behaviors.
Okay, got it. Okay,
I
got it.
know they are causing problems in my relationship. I don't want to do them. I feel shame after I do them.
Yes.
But
Let's talk about it. Okay, let's
go
talk
ahead.
about anger for a second.
Sure.
All right. So, because just like we did the fear exercise, fear is really underneath the anger. So it all ends up at the same place. So I usually have this pyramid, right? And at the top is rage. Underneath that is anger, irritation, agitation, all that stuff. Under that is sadness, anxiety, all that. Under that is fear. And then at the bottom is ultimately powerlessness, which is, of
Mm,
course, where faith is going to come in and all of our relationship with the God and higher power, whatever. So it really ends up, and I said to you earlier, pause, pray, and proceed. At first, you have to be aware of the what I call an activation. So our activation is going to come when we feel the anger inside us. That's not a normal response to the event. So there's kind of a normal irritation or agitation to something. But when we have an extreme bodily response, I call it an activation. And that you can guarantee is from the past.
mm.
So when you're having an activation and you want to act out and yell at someone or get mad or whatever, it's pause, always pressing the pause button, pray, and then say to yourself a couple of things. What am I afraid of? And what does this remind me of? So
Great
it's
questions.
right. So usually this would happen. I mean, as a parent, I think it happens mainly with parenting, right? I mean, obviously, was if someone's not in a great relationship, it can happen there. But we want our kids to behave in a certain way, right? And we want to know they're okay. And so I remember my son, he wanted to have a Super Bowl party when he was like a teenager. And I was getting these unbelievable feelings of like agitation and anger and upset. And I wasn't taking them out on him. At this point, I knew kind of what was happening. And I finally just sat him down and said, Bud, I am so over the top with reaction to you having this party. And I ended up expressing it. We talked about a plan, but really what it came down to was my own history at a high school party. Something had happened. It's like I was having this incredibly intense response to something my son was doing. Now, if you don't have awareness around that, you're going to just lose it at your kid and you're going to say, no, you can't have that party. And
Mm,
really, with parents, and I always say this, number one, it's the hardest job in the world. Number two, parenting is about the parents. It's
it
not about
is.
kids,
It
right?
is.
And yet you have to have so much compassion towards yourself because parenting is where it's just like in our intimate relationship. It's where all of our old wounds, our old fears, our old anxieties are going to manifest because we want to control our environment, and that's where the fear gets activated. Yeah, it's big.
And I think you're absolutely right. And to me, it comes back to that safety piece. Not
Yes.
only am I trying to make myself safe, but I'm also trying to create the safe environment
Yes.
for this child. And inadvertently, I'm not doing it on purpose. I may have created an inharmonious, angry, fearful environment
Right.
because that's how I feel. And
Yes.
then you go into the shame spiral again. So it's like this is not what I intended. That shame piece keeps coming up because what I have experienced and what I see some of the folks that I work with experience is I did everything I knew to do. Yes, you did. You did do everything you knew to do. Sometimes we need to reach out for help and untangle why we did those things, which is
Yeah,
what
and
you've been
how the
talking
shame
about.
spiral. Yes. And how I kind of deal with the shame spiral with folks is, and this is kind of where I've gotten to in the last 5 years, is I totally believe that myself and everybody else is literally doing exactly what they're capable of doing at any given time. So if I believe that based on people's history, so if I have a history of all these different things, everybody does, and then I create all these behaviors, that's what I know to feel safe. That's what's going to be my go to. So for me, if a shame spiral is about to start, I say to myself, have compassion. You're doing exactly what you were trained to do. And really, it takes out the judgment
Mm.
because, again, if I believe that I learned all these things that were great to help me, then why would I go into shame about something I'm doing to feel safe? And again, it's the compassion for myself and the compassion for all others really helps with several things. It helps with shame and it helps with anger because it's easy to feel angry at someone who's not behaving in a particular way. But when we frame it as they're doing exactly what they're capable of doing right now, doesn't mean I'm not going to set boundaries. Doesn't mean I'm not going to speak up. Doesn't mean I'm going to deal with the situation. But I can also see, and this is a tricky one, that it's an unrealistic expectation of that person.
Mm.
So, I categorize unrealistic expectations as anything that that person is doing, anything, let me see how to phrase this. It's unrealistic to expect a person to behave in any way other than how they're behaving. Right? Now,
It go it goes to when people show you who they are,
yes,
believe
listen.
them.
Yes, yes, exactly. And that's all they're capable of. Now, I say to myself, it's not unreasonable, like to expect my mother to behave like a mother. But if she was an active alcoholic, it's totally unrealistic.
Mm.
So it's distinguishing between those two things. And that's part of codependency rage is I'm expecting these addicts or people who have dysfunction in some way to behave in a way they're incapable of behaving. And the trouble is, and why it's my responsibility is to admit that I'm trying to get something. Wow, I'm getting emotional. To admit that I'm trying to get something from someone who's incapable of it, then means I have to address why am I in this relationship? And that's always the trickier part, right? Yeah.
It's how I frame it is going to a dry well. I can
Yes.
keep going back to that well and lowering my bucket in there and then getting angry with the bucket that it
Yes.
cannot, will not, won't, whatever produce what I
Yes.
want it to produce. But who am I really harming? If we're in a
Yes.
relationship, I'm definitely harming me. I'm probably harming any potential that that relationship has too.
Yes. Yes.
So, what are we going to put? We've talked a lot about the problems. What are we going to find as relief and solutions in your book?
Yes. All right. So a bunch of things, but and some of these are going to sound so elementary, but they're so critical. So, learning how to identify your feeling states, because if codependency is about operating out of fear and urgency, you're not actually in touch with what's really happening. So, pausing long enough, staying out of chaos, staying out of drama long enough so you can literally identify, geez, I'm feeling lonely. Geez, I'm feeling sad. Geez, I'm feeling scared. Identifying and learning how to express appropriately your feelings, tolerating discomfort. To me, the solution to most codependency problems are tolerating discomfort, starting to identifying your fears. What are they about? How they're manifesting. So I do videos on this YouTube channel called Therapy in a Nutshell. I don't know if you've ever seen it. She does a lot of videos, but we've done several on codependency and anxiety and anger and a few of those things for people to look up. Um, Another really important tool is, and this sounds very simplistic, is self-care, starting to turn the focus onto you rather than another person. Identifying your needs. What is it that I need? How am I going to express that need? Getting connection and community for yourself rather than, again, the idea of healing from this behavior, this paradigm of behaviors, thoughts, and feelings is bringing the focus back to you.
Mm.
And that's the counterintuitiveness of it, because we think because we're afraid we need to fix, save, or change someone else. But it's really about fixing, changing, or saving ourselves. And when we do that, magically, the other people may change. That's the irony.
So take a deep breath again.
Yes.
Stop fixing, changing, or saving somebody else. Turn that focus on yourself, and the world gets better.
World gets better. Take one small action step.
So what when you're talking about one small action step for the person who is listening to this, what is one small action step they could do?
Yeah. I would say if you're over functioning and you're busy all the time, say to yourself, I'm going to take an hour for myself per day. Or if you have a bunch of kids, a half an hour. Set a limit, set a limit and say, part of it is I've had so many people say, but I have to. You know what I mean? I am not kidding when I say nothing is a 911. Codependents act like everything is a 911. But when
Mm.
another tool I have is stick with the facts. I may feel like a 911 is, I don't know, my child needing me at that moment to help him with his homework or whatever. It feels urgent because they're urgent. Say to yourself, look, I'll get back to you in 30 minutes. I'm going to go into the other room and meditate for a little while or whatever. I remember when my son was a baby, I would go to the gym, not to work out, but I'd go put him in the daycare and I'd sit in the whirlpool for an hour.
Yes,
And I
yes,
mean, so,
yes.
and that saved my life because I didn't have babysitters at the time. And I just needed some alone time. So, just doing the smallest thing for yourself is huge for people that struggle with this. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the ones I switched churches because the church I was in didn't have a nursery. The church down the road had a nursery,
Yeah.
which meant I got an hour of adult time and they got to play with other kids. Everybody
Yes.
was happy. They got
Yes.
snack. I got fed in the service.
Yes.
It was all good.
Yes.
That's where I think we often see selfishness of, oh my goodness, the fear crops up depending on what your fears are. Oh, they could get hurt. Those aren't the right people, blah, 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 blah. Those were safe people. Those were good
Yes.
people. I could
Yes.
release and let go and do that. The other
Yes.
one is the bathroom. You never think about
Yes.
it, but you're like, okay, mommy's going to go to the bathroom. Maybe you stay in there for 30 minutes,
Yes.
right? I
The
had boys, so
bathroom
they're
is
like,
definitely,
okay, go. I don't want to go in there with you. But finding that
right.
space. So, Dr.
Yes.
Sarah, you have presented us with so many things. Tell us the title of your book again. Tell us your
Got
dot
it.
coms, where we can find you.
Yeah, drsarahmichaud.com is my website, and my book is called Code Crazy. You can get it on Amazon. If anybody can't afford it, email me on my website. I'll mail you one. And I'm on, and at Leaving Crazy Town on YouTube is really where, anybody can write, chat, ask for certain videos. We have a ball. We just put out a video the other day because a cat wrote into us. So, I mean, we try to have a lot of fun, but we address really serious topics. So that would be a great place to find me too.
So you can even write in from your cat or dog's perspective.
Yes.
Or my friend is having this trouble. You don't have to
Yes.
label who you
Exactly.
are. Please, yeah, we're practicing that great anonymity that the AA Al-Anon groups brought to us. Dr. Sarah, it has been a joy. And for those of you, tell your book one more time and you have a website, yes?
Yes.
Yes, I saw
Yeah.
your website.
Yeah. Yeah. The book is called Code Crazy, One Psychologist Journey Through Addiction and Codependency, something like that. And again, you can go to my website, drsarahmichaud.com, and the book is on there also. And a bunch of other
Fantastic.
podcasts. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, please take advantage of that. This has been such a great interview. Really appreciate your time today, Dr. Sarah. And we will
Thank
have
you.
to have you back on because I want to talk some more about limerence. And if you don't know what that is, look that up because that's super important for codependence. Thank you, Dr. Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Faith Over Addiction podcast. Remember, nothing changes until something changes. Today is your day to step out in faith and make a difference. You are a daughter of the King, a woman who can spark incredible ripple effects of hope and healing, not just in your own life, but in your family, your community, and God's kingdom. If this episode encouraged you, bless someone else by sharing it. Send it to a friend who needs a little hope or post it on Instagram and tag me. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. And hey, if you're ready to reclaim your God-given identity and create a safe, loving space for yourself and those you care about, let's talk. Book a quick call with me today, and I'd love to hear your story and help you take the next step. Oh, and don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, search for Faith Over Addiction, and leave me a review. Your feedback not only makes my day, but helps other women find this podcast and step into freedom too. You are strong, you are loved, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Until next time, keep walking boldly into the life God has for you.